The results of what I just showed you about heis hekastos, etc., were presented at the 21st Congress of the International Papyrologists Association in Berlin, August 15, 1995. There were over 400 papyrologists there. They all got to look through that microscope, epifluorescent confocal laser scanning microscope. Every one of them said, "You're right. We can read it. That's what it says." Okay? Thede, the facts are now beyond dispute. There he is. Question: do you think the text critics ever accepted this? See, they have a theory. He has hard data. Do you know the difference between a theory and data? Okay, your theory can be wonderful sounding, but when we get the data and it doesn't line up with your theory, time to change your theory. They've never accepted his work. So I want you to understand, we have papyrologists, this is a science, and we have text critics. This underscores that everything they've done, everything I've presented before this to show you that needed to be corrected, the papyrologists have shown it really does. With text normally only on the inner side for protection in a scroll. See, scrolls, you write and then you roll it up. It protects the inside. The scroll was common format used in classical antiquity for much of the 20th century. That's not very long ago, y'all. 1956 was 20th century. They were convinced that the Codex, what is a Codex? A book of folded papyrus sheets written on both sides, like that folio I showed you, okay? That it had been invented by Christians. Well, why did they do that? According to their theory, see, this is why so many of the manuscripts read the same, but we can ignore them because they were disseminated from scribal centers during persecution-free lulls, especially after the AD 313 Edict of Milan by Constantine. In other words, here's what they're saying. The early churches formed centers and hired a whole bunch of scribes who are just copying the New Testament. Get it together, send it to your church. Get it together. Now, there's nothing in the Bible about it. Neither, hear me, is there anything recorded in history that says that. They don't care. They have a theory. And our theory says, oh, they're lazy dogs. All we have to do is spend all our time in just 2 manuscripts. Just 2 manuscripts. We can ignore the 3,000. Isn't that wonderful? They don't even read them. Don't confuse me with facts. My mind is made up. See, when I tell you how hard I would be on them, they won't look at the data. Oh. So they made this story up. And so the churches were just turning them out manuscripts, and that's why there's so many of them that read the same. Oh, for goodness sake. From this totally unfounded presumption, text critics took for granted that a codex, or even a fragment of one, could be no older than the late 3rd, but preferably the early 4th century. So if you and I found a codex, a book, that read like the King James Bible, instantly they said, we have manuscripts dated 350, 370. So we ignore because all codexes or at least 4th century. They almost none of them now go with anything to do with 3rd. It's all 4th. 96, Dr. Thede exposed this error. Oh, he didn't stop with what I already showed you. He pointed out that between AD 84 to 86, the Spanish-born poet, Roman poet, Martial, mentioned small paperback codices in one of his extant Latin epigrams, a short little book full of mostly
satire.
Okay. Thus, centuries before the first actual codex, a codex fragment was rediscovered by archaeologists. There existed clear evidence for their existence, that is the codex, in New Testament times. Their whole theory is shot, and they won't give up on it. Not being conversant with Latin literature, see, text critics aren't. They're Greek and Hebrew experts. They don't have time to read Latin. Okay? The text critics were always wrong to assume that codex fragments should, by definition, be dated no older than the late 3rd or 4th century. Dr. Thede wrote in his book, "Scholarly prejudice can be an intellectual prison." Neither should it be imagined that Dr. Thede was motivated to arrive at these conclusions because he's a King James Bible supporter. He is not. But he's a papyrologist, and he had the hard physical data in hand. So he was not intimidated to abandon his new textual discoveries because they conflicted with the presuppositions and conjectural theories of the New Testament text scholars. Facts, you see, are stubborn things.